Hello, everyone. I want to welcome you to my channel. My name is Carol. I'm an author, a healer, and a fairy whisperer, and I work with Morgan and the Sisters of Avalon. And today I was asked to actually do this particular video. I have quite a few requests in, so if I haven't, actually gotten to your request yet, please forgive me. I intended fully to do Pixies at the beginning of the month and then fell ill, so the Pixies are waiting. They'll be coming down the line. But we have one of our friends here called the Fairy Prince, who requested this particular video about how I connect with fairies, how I began to connect with fairies, and how we can all do that as well. Hello, everyone. Hello, Holic Fan. Hello, Jeanette Nash. Very nice to see you. You're twirling. I love it. I love you too. So I think what we should do is just wait a couple of moments until we get a few more people on. Does anyone have any questions you want to ask before we really get going into this particular question? Any questions at all about what's going on right now, with the fairies? They're so excited about today's topic, connecting with fairies, of course, because they want to connect with you. All right, we'll go ahead and get into this then. The question from the Fairy Prince was, how did you begin connecting with fairies, and how can you help us to connect with them more? My story, and I think many of you have heard it in different forms before. I think from the beginnings, when I was quite young, I always had a communication, but I didn't realize exactly what I was doing when I was younger. But as I came into my teens, I really started to get twilight dreaming episodes where the fairies were coming through. And so the one time in particular came after I'd been performing Guinevere in Camelot, the musical. I came home tired from a matinee, laid down to sleep, went into a twilight dreaming episode where instantly I was being addressed by a voice older than time. Hello. And it was Morgan. And at the time I didn't know who or what it was, but the voice said, "Return to Avalon, return to Camelot." I woke up like this, just a teenager, not understanding what was happening. And so it came through the twilight dreaming episodes, through basically regular dreams over the years, and then just going into meditation. But the thing that Morgan wants me to stress more than anything else, for me, it came through my creativity, through writing. And I know people are going to say, well, wait a minute, how to come through writing? Anytime I would go into a meditative writing state, I literally, at the beginning, started to get this download about what Avalon was, which then went into the Morgan of Avalon novels that I was writing. It was absolutely fascinating. And so it wasn't like me going out and just trying to meditate under a tree, which we're going to go through how that can be done. But it was me sitting down to write. You imagine me at a keyboard, and then suddenly all this information is coming through about Avalon, about the sisters, how they were fairies that taught about each of the different disciplines, about what fairies do, how they're connected to all of the elements, to the animals, to flowers, plants, trees, rocks, etc. All this started coming through while I was in creative expression. And they want me to share this with you today. I love it, Mary. Wonderful. You see how we are so divinely connected when we are in that state. It doesn't have to be just writing, though. It can be doing what you love. And creative expression, as we've gone through in this channel before, can be almost anything. But it can be you singing, and suddenly you feel this presence coming over you, and it is the fairies literally coming to help you and inspire you. We've talked about fairy patrons before, how that happens. It can be you baking this incredible cake, and you are just so filled with joy as you're doing it, and suddenly you are getting this impression in your mind, I need to add fennel, or I need to add something that doesn't make sense. It's counterintuitive, but you put it in, and suddenly you have this magic creation that you've come up with that has been fairy inspired. And so what they are saying for me to tell you is that anytime you are in a state of bliss or joy, doing what you love, that is when they can start coming down in through you. And I know everyone's like, well, I do love a lot of things, but it's kind of stressful out there right now, which I totally understand. They're telling me to stop in the middle of this right now. I'm going to come back to it. I'm actually going to be starting on Instagram. And right now I'm just Carol_Weekland, but I'm going to be starting a Sacred Avalon on Instagram with fairy oracle readings. So they want me to tell you that right now in the middle of all this. And also on Facebook, I am at Sacred Avalon Fairy Workshops, Retreats, and Books. I'm going to be starting each week. I'm going to have YouTube and those three going at the same time because they want me getting so many different kind of messages out right now. All right, let me just read what's written here, and then we're going to go back into what they were saying. Oh, it's a beautiful way, Ethan. You're absolutely right. That's one of the ways we were going to talk about. In fact, we will talk about when we go out and actually talk about working with the trees and the tree fae. So, as they were saying, when you are in that blissed out state, it makes it so much easier for a fairy to connect, because remember, their energy is at a different rate. And a lot of people think of them as being fourth dimensional, but you have to realize that fairies are ascending with us. And so they are literally going up into the fifth dimensional realms and higher as well. So the higher you are vibrating, the more relaxed and joyful you can be, the more that they can literally come down through you. And they want me to stress again, it is through your creative expression. That is how they can actually reach out to you, come through with inspirations for you. And they want me to stress right now that sometimes it's not going to seem like it's necessarily a fairy coming to you. It could seem like, oh, I just received this wonderful thought. Where did that come from? Quite often, when you're first working with fairies, you might not hear them right away. Some people hear them instantly. Some people don't hear them at all. Some people will actually get visual images. You could be working at something and then suddenly an image of a squirrel pops into your mind. And that can be a fairy telling you need to remain balanced. They communicate in so many different ways. They're saying to slow down a bit with this. So anytime you get an impression in your mind right now, they're wanting you to kind of take a moment and work with that, because our guides on so many different levels right now are able to get through to us because of the ascension process, and we are raising up in energy levels. And so they will create impressions, and we get these and they seem as simple as thoughts coming into our mind. This is the way that fairies also communicate. So what you need to do is work with this as the thoughts are coming in, and ask and feel into it. Does it feel as if it is a nature-based impression that you're receiving? And if it is, you know that this is coming from the fairy realm. Okay, right now, yes, yes, yes. Thank you, Jeanette. Truth, truth, truth. Now, let's go back to what Ethan was talking about at this point. If you are wanting to do some more traditional kinds of fairy communication, And they're saying, be careful how I say traditional. You know, there are so many different ways for fairies to reach us, but we think about going out into nature and being with a particular element or with a tree. I know when I first studied with Doreen Virtue, this was one of the ways that she always taught us to go out directly to a tree and ask it if we could actually work with it. And that's you kind of sitting down next to the tree, asking for permission, and then waiting for the impression to actually come through to you. So at that point, you can be connecting with the tree and the tree fae at the same time. Now, if you're new to the channel or if you just want a little brush up on this, the tree fairies are called dryads, and they are actually workers within the tree. So you have the spirit of the tree and then the workers of the tree as the fairy realm. And the larger the tree is, the more expansive the number of fairies that are working with the tree. When you have a very ancient old tree, you literally can have a fairy kingdom situated within that tree. That's how many fairies are working on it or working with it. So what they're saying when you first go out and ask to work with the tree, also see if you can actually feel the fairies associated with the tree. Now for this, the fairies can come outside the tree and actually interact with you face to face. They are not tied to the tree. They have the ability to come out and can literally come out into the forest. And if you can visually see them, they're wanting to say, as time goes by, we're all going to be able to see them because we're raising, like I said, higher and higher. And we all know this with the ascension. So what you might start to see is, of course, what you think a fairy would look like, or that's what fairies tend to present as, or simply sparkles of beautiful light, even the fairy orbs, which they're saying can often be mistaken for things like will-o'-the-wisps, which is something completely different. But when you're seeing them for the first time, you might not realize what that is. That's actually the spirit energy form of the fairy coming forward. They're saying their language can sound often almost musical, is what they're saying right now, because of the undulating pitches going back and forth. So they're saying when you're getting the ringing in your ears, of course, that is connecting into Gaia's energy, but you can also be connecting with angels and earth nature angels, which are fairies at the same time. I love it. That's what you see too, Jeanette. Absolutely. And they love to present as those sparkles or the orbs. This is much more comfortable for people that are trying to get used to the ideas of there being fairies. Think about right now the majority of people on the earth, and they've been brought up with the tales, for instance, of Peter Pan and Tinkerbell. And so they have this, and of course, all the children that watch Tinkerbell on TV. And it's a beautiful series, but it does have things that are not very fairy about it. I know we're going off on tangent here, but they want me to go off, so I'm going to go off. They're saying, for instance, people are presented with the idea that hawks in the Tinkerbell series can harm a fairy, which if you've studied with anyone that talks about fairies, including myself, they will tell you that a hawk and a fairy are divinely connected because you have the guardians, the two guardians that would be the guardians to the hawk. So that's just, for instance, one fallacy that comes forth in literature, or in this case, in a series like Tinkerbell, which also really presents fairies very beautifully as well. How do I see them? This is toxic Alden. For me, it can be a myriad of different ways. It's not like I am always seeing fairies. I want you to realize that. It's much more that I get the hearing of them. I definitely hear them, and then I also get the impressions like thought forms in my mind. I hope that makes sense. Does that make sense, Toxic Alden? I hope it does. But when I do see them, it can be everything from what the fairy expects me or knows that I expect to see. And so I can see a very diminutive little creature with wings. Or I can see things like the orbs quite often, or even the glitters of light. And they can be everything from the silvery sparkles. I don't know if you can see, I've got bad lighting in here right now, but I've got silver on for the fairy realm right now today. When it can be the silver sparkles, it can be beautiful. If it's from Avalon, the blue flashes of light of Avalon. So there are many, many different ways that I actually visualize them and see them. Holic fan. You hear your ears ringing sometimes. Yes, when you're in changes in the air. Definitely behind it as well. And it's like I said, it's not just the earth fairies, the nature fairies. It can be angels communicating that way too. They tend to go with the very, very high pitches in communication to us. And quite often, when you have a decision to make, you see the blue flashes. Wonderful. I love it. Avalon reaching out to you. But when you hear those high pitched tones in your ears, that is kind of a signal to what you're thinking about at that moment. So when that ringing starts, go back to what you were thinking the moment before, and you could say, oh my God, I don't know what I was thinking the moment before. Keep trying to move ahead then with your thoughts and see when that ringing comes back. And that's communication coming through for you. Okay. Now they want me to go back to when we're actually with the tree, with the dryads and the tree spirit. When you're spending time out with a tree and the dryads, you can do that exercise we've done in this channel before, where you literally lean back against the tree and allow the fairies to literally kind of spill their energy through you. And this is a very, very beautiful way to become one with the tree, but actually feel that really fantastic, they're calling it the crisp, clear energy of the dryads. And of course, where I'm at right now, we are experiencing winter, so it's very cold and crisp if you're outside at this time right now. They're also saying that you can, of course, connect in any of the different elements with fairies. So if you have the ability to go out into a water atmosphere right now, and natural water, of course, no chemicals. So a stream, a lake, a pond, even a puddle, you can actually spend time dipping fingertips, dipping toes. You know, if it is a very warm climate that you're in right now, you could actually go swimming, and you will feel the touch of the water fairies. Now, the water fairies, the undines, that's the freshwater fairies, are coming through. They are saying that they actually can reach out to you quite often through your baths and your showers. It depends on what kind of water you have coming through. So I certainly know people that have wells. You know, they live out in the country, and they therefore communicate quite often with fairies when they're getting showers and such, because the fairies are coming right through the water source at that moment and can communicate with them while they're singing in their shower. And of course, the singing would attract them anyway, because water fae love the song. And so communicating with them, they're saying, can be through song. Why not take a moment when you're out in the water, near water, and sing or hum a tune? They're saying you could even play a musical instrument as well, and that will draw the water fae to you. They're wanting me to remind you that we have a personal water fairy that works with us and the liquids in our bodies. This is a fairy that communicates with you on a regular basis, and you might not even be aware of it. So that fairy is telling you quite often what you need to do to keep your blood system, your lymphatic system healthy and nourished. It can be something like you're eating too much of this, and instead you need to change and eat or drink something like that. Okay. All right. They are also saying that the water fairies, and once again, if you work with me on this channel, you're aware of this, really work with your emotions. So you can find water fairies coming through your dream state. And this is another way you can communicate with them. You can literally, at night, when you go to sleep, say, I want to connect with my fairy guides. You can say, I want to connect with the water fairies, and I want to be able to remember the communication I had with them when I wake up. If you phrase it in those terms, then you will be able to remember what kind of communication you had. They're stating, this once again is the water fae, that since they are of the astral realm, this is a really good way to communicate with them, especially when you're just starting out through that dream state or directly through water. Okay, so we're going into Gob right now in the Earth Fairies, and he is also reminding you, you have a personal gnome that works with you. So this is a creature, a beautiful fairy that works with the landscape of your body. Once again, if there is something off with your body, that gnome will work with you and communicate to you naturally that something needs to be changed. For instance, say you are an avid runner. This is the image you're showing me right now. And you are running, getting ready for a marathon. And this is the kind of overrunning that is necessary to get you ready for an event like that. The gnome can come through and actually say, you need to pull back because you are hurting your knees, the back of your knee especially. It can be very specific, and you might not even know that it is the gnome communicating to you. It would be a sense within your body that something is wrong, that you need to pull back. And how many of us, if we're preparing for something like a marathon, will then listen to that and say, yes, but I'm going to push through it. Anybody else? I certainly have done things like that before. But now as I get older and wiser, and now I'm a fairy whisperer, I know when those kinds of communications come through that I listen to them and I will pull back if I'm being told to pull back. Okay, so the gnomes, they're saying that they are always reaching out to us because we are always walking on the earth. Even if you are not walking on the earth, if you are wheelchair bound, your feet will touch the earth in some aspect. We have a direct connection to the earth and the earth fairies. So they are always gifting us with insights. And once again, it is up to us to discern whether that is an insight from a fairy or is that coming from somewhere else. And the way to do that, they're wanting me to say this over and over again, is this something that is nature-based, that you're being shown? And is it a positive? By positive, they mean a fairy would not lead you down the path that would ask you to do something that would hurt you. They're saying this is counterintuitive because so many fairy tales depict fairies, such as sirens, luring people to their deaths, goblins creating havoc within people, and of course leprechauns stealing people's gold and their souls. All of these, please remember, are from the third dimensional fairy tale that basically is correct that these creatures exist, but they are of the highest, most positive light. And now the fairies are saying, touch upon the tricksters that come forward from time to time. They will come forward in communication with you too, but the energy is quite different. And this is what they want you to pay attention to right now. If the energy is asking you to do something that is uncomfortable for you, right now we know as a spiritual principle that that is no longer something that we would heed or pay attention to. We would dismiss that. And so that kind of interpretation coming through from a trickster, from someone that would be on the darker side, that is a kind of communication right now that I am being told as we move into fifth dimension that we do not heed anymore. And I know that might seem very harsh and difficult. We certainly have covered all of this on this channel before, but that is what is being sent through Avalon right now. We want to be of the highest positive light and bring others to that highest, most positive light as well. All right, let me just see what else is coming through. Air fairies with Peralta. He is mentioning again, anytime you want to connect with the air fairies, using a musical instrument that is based with air, such as a flute, even a kazoo, blowing through a feather, will help you connect with them. And literally, he is showing us doing that, and through the wind, the breeze, hearing the air fairy voices, the sylphs coming through. He is also, once again, showing musicians. So we talked about the water fae being very connected to singers and musicians, but air fairies as well quite often can become very godmothers and patrons to those who work with music. So that is important to remember. They are saying that when the patron comes forward, I know I've talked about this on the channel before, but apparently they want to repeat some of this. When the patron comes forward for someone in the arts, that there is traditionally a testing period. So something of yours will disappear that is dear to you, such as a ring. And you are being tested as to how you react. And then also you will be tested, for instance, you are out walking and someone is needing money out on the street. Do you hand them, if you have a dollar, a dollar? If you do, the fairies will actually show you that dollar come back in another way. And I've kind of gone through this, how that happens on the channel before, but I can be out, and giving, a dollar to someone, and then walking in the park and there's a bag I pick up and there's a dollar bill underneath it. So it really is a method of testing that you go through with the patron, and the patron will then start working with you in ways that would show you what to do if you're singing, if you're public speaking, any of those things, how to better communicate with them. I'm just checking in with fire fairies right now. Once again, the fire fairies are very powerful. Anytime that you are going through a spiritual transformation, they are present. And so, quite often, when you are in a meditative state, the fire fae can come through to you in that way. They want me to impress upon the idea of the phoenix, of the great creative force of fire, the destruction, and then the rebirth. So the cyclical kind of feel to the fire fairies, and how they would walk us through that part of our spiritual growth. Checking in. All right, what I would like next, let's just take a moment. And Morgan says that she is going to work with us in visualizing with our third eye, us truly and clearly communicating with the fairy realm. So to do this, she would like you very much to relax. And if you can, plant your feet on the floor. Imagine yourself growing the silver roots down. As you do that, I see her coming forward she's robed in blue. She's coming forward to you and tapping 1, 2, 3 times on your third eye. Now, she's not taking your hand, but she's telling you to follow her through the veil of mist and fire. So she wants you, with your third eye, using your creative imagination, if you don't see it, to visualize yourself following Morgan through the veil of mist and fire to Avalon. She's stopping at the shores of Avalon, so we have Avalon Lake all around us. Now, what she wants you to do is actually visualize placing your feet into the waters of Avalon. So you can imagine, visualize kicking off your shoes, your socks, allowing your toes to touch the water. She's even showing some of you literally immersing yourself like a baptism into the water. So if that is you, allow yourself to literally lie down and drift in Avalon Lake. Now Morgan is literally waving her hand over your third eye, and she is placing the symbol of Avalon inside your third eye right now, and pressing her fingers 1, 2, 3 times. Now what I would like you to do is visualize yourself a fairy whisperer. And some of you have already done this. You've taken my class or you've studied with someone else. Some of you are new to this. Some of you are currently studying this. Imagine yourself literally having the ability right now to not only feel the water fairies, but to see them, hear them, How do you see them right now if you slowly turn your head? How do you visualize the water fairies in Avalon Lake? She is saying to listen carefully to the song. Now, you don't need to put your ear against the water to hear it. It literally is vibrating through all the portions of your body that are touching the water. Feel the song of the water fae speaking to you. They're literally showing this beautiful dance and play of silver blue light encompassing us, literally dancing across us. This is the water fairy. I should say fairies, led by Masoe of the Sisterhood, communicating to you. Now Morgan is actually levitating you into the air above the lake. You can feel right now the water droplets from your body literally softly falling back to the lake. Now a very soft breeze is blowing across you. And in that particular song, you hear the sylphs communicating. Now allow your newly opened third eye to see them. How does the air fairy before you appear? Morgan and the sisters are saying right now, and indeed all the fairies are saying, if you do not see one, visualize it with your creative imagination. This is the way we strengthen the third eye, by creative visualization. Picture that air fairy. You can picture Peralta if you wish, the monarch, literally dancing in the air before you. And feel and sense what the air fairies want you to know. If you're not hearing it, allow your imagination to catch hold of it and create it. Morgan is being very clear right now. This is an exercise from Avalon in developing our creative third eye expression. She is saying everyone at this point of ascension has their third eye open to an extent. And it is up to us to strengthen it with such visualizations, with practicing it. I apologize if you hear my stomach gurgling. Please just try to stay focused. You can giggle with the fairies because they're giggling. All right. Now I'm going to call in Jinn and the fire fairies right now to see how they want to present to us. Literally a beautiful fiery string of light I see coming down from the sun. and literally playing before your eyes. The fire has so much to teach us, and so many people fear it. It's very easy to understand why that is. They are saying to trust in your abilities, to know that the more you practice this kind of exercise, the more you literally will connect with them. And the earth fairies are coming up and also affirming this through our connection in the feet being planted right now. We're actually touching back down onto the earth and planting. And so with the earth fairies, they're wanting us to remain grounded no matter what is going on in all aspects of life. They're wanting me to tell you that we will be having very soon, within the next couple of weeks, our Pixie video, and that will be coming up very soon. And we will learn what they particularly do in the fairy kingdom. They are very present with us right now. All right, Morgan is literally standing back before us. She is saying to you to never doubt your ability to communicate with the fairies, with Avalon. You have the ability to travel here anytime you wish. And always know in your heart, in your third eye, that you possess this ability. And do not give up. They're saying it may seem like it was so easy for Carol to communicate, but remember, that was one of the reasons I came to this earth. And so they started out with me when I was quite young. And so I had that ability. But of course, I had to really develop it too. So not only, it's not like I just sit down to write every time I want to communicate with the fairies right now. Although that is a really great way of doing it. It's me reaching out to them, trusting that I can pick up on what they say to me, on what they want me to share with you, and then doing that. And indeed, they want us sharing fairy wisdom with the world. This is so important right now. People have forgotten their connection to the earth. And as the fifth dimension is becoming so much a part of our waking reality, everything is getting so shaken up that people can look at the earth and say it's falling apart. But if you ground yourself with the earth fairies, if you go out into nature and connect with the different realms, you will know the truth of it. And you will know how you can help others understand this truth as well. All right. Love and peace, Destiny's love, yes. All right. Thank you, Lutz de Luna. Does anyone have any questions you want me to ask before I kind of move us back into our realm from Avalon? Any questions of Morgan, any of the fairy realms? All right, she's going to take us back right now. She said, once again, you are to walk. You can even imagine yourself flying behind her, taking you back to where you were seated or standing. And we've had a beautiful experience just learning how you can practice connecting with that realm. Naomi, question, please go ahead. What would you like to ask? All right, well, I'm going to go ahead. Thank you so much, Destiny's Love. Love you too, dear one. I'm going to kind of start signing off, but if Naomi has any questions she wants to ask, I might have misunderstood her yes there. But I want to thank Morgan, the sisters, Gob and the Earth Fairies, Peralta and the Air Fairies, Nixon the Water Fairies, and Jin and the Fire Fairies. All the fairies and everyone that came forth to help us today. All right. I truly hope this gave you more ideas on how to connect with the fairy realm. The thing, once again, they want me to reiterate is your joy and your creativity. And the more you do something you love, the easier it is for them to come through. All right. Oh, we love you too. I love you too, Naomi. How may we bring more beings to serve? All right, everyone, I'm asking. It literally is as simple as spreading the word to those who are open. If a person is not open, they suggest leading by example. And by that I mean going out into nature and, of course, as we were saying earlier, picking up the trash in that area. And the person watches you do that. And even though they don't know that they're connecting with the fairy realm, they're being influenced by the fairy realm. All right, let me just check, Naomi. I'm connecting more to lovely beings and would love to bring the elementals to them, to teach them and heal them and the earth. That is so fabulous. And what I would do is start planting seeds with them. Tell them what you feel they can handle. Don't go too far with it too fast, especially if this information is new to them. Give them bite-sized little bits and then start from there. Basically, let them know that the earth, air, water, and fire elements on our earth are alive. And I think most people can get a sense of that at this point of time. And that would be a really good beginning to share with them. All right, well, thank you everyone who was here today and listened. I thank you for signing in, and if you have more requests, we certainly have a lot of requests coming up. Like I said, we're coming up with pixies soon, and also with unicorns, and we'll have more requests, I'm sure, coming through, and of course more of what Avalon wants us to work on as well. So thank you for tuning in. Fairy blessings to one and all. And they're wanting me to point you, of course, to my wonderful website, everythingfairy.co. There you can check out all the books I've written that are fairy inspired. You can see the fairy classes, fairy parties, all those wonderful things. So thank you again. And we love you all too. Thank you for signing in. Fairy blessings, everyone. Have a beautiful day.